Good morning. Welcome to the live stream. Today is, oops, hey girl, can you go lay down? Today is Saturday, December 13th. My name is Angela. Welcome. I am a software engineer and front-end developer in St. Paul, Minnesota. And here we are. Today is deployment day for those of us who celebrate. I say that because I don't think every front-end developer cares about deployment as much as I do. And for sure on this channel, you are going to learn old school deployment because this is a pretty much a vanilla channel. It's HTML, vanilla CSS, vanilla JavaScript. My personal preference when I'm working on projects, my own personal projects, or just for the sake of this channel, is to not need a framework or a library, to not need Node, to not need a package manager or NPM, and to just do things vanilla, because HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, those are the things that the browser natively renders, and you can build terrific apps, websites, web pages using just those things. It is possible. And I want more front-end developers to learn the basics and learn the core foundational skills of front-end development. I don't think that there's anything wrong with a framework or a library, and I know why organizations use those things. I just want to get back to basics and remind people like, hey, there's actually some foundational things here that is really missing a lot in front-end development, in my opinion. So with that being said, I've also decided to incorporate more DevOps and deployment into this channel because that kind of closes the loop on what we're building, right? What's the point of being a front-end developer if you never see your work in the browser? So let's learn how to deploy. And again, I learned how to do all of these things before the cloud really existed, right? So I'm going to teach you how to set up your DNS. I'm going to teach you about A records and C names. I'm going to teach you how to use rsync if you're on a Mac, FileZilla if you're on Windows. And of course, we're going to use FileZilla today, which anybody can use FileZilla. And I'm going to show you how to get your hands dirty in an Apache configuration file. I'm going to show you how to install an SSL certificate using Let's Encrypt, and we're going to use the terminal for everything. No GUIs, no UIs. We're going to get knuckles deep into the terminal. But guess what? It's not that hard. And here's what's great about learning how to do it this way. You're going to learn how the internet works. Right? We're front-end developers. Shouldn't we know how the internet works? I think we should. So I want you to get excited about it because I'm excited. So there we go. Okay, who's here? Who's here today? Honestly, like the gang is here today. This is exciting. Rahul is here from Nepal. Welcome, Rahul. I'm so happy to have you. I'm happy to see you. Monique Robinson is here. Monique. Out on the East Coast. I would love to know what the weather's like on the East Coast, Monique, because right now in St. Paul, Minneapolis, Twin Cities area, it is cold and bitter. Like what is the temperature today? It's very cold, dangerously cold. So this is Fahrenheit. Can you even see it? I don't know if you're even going to be able to see it. -2 degrees Fahrenheit. Feels like -8. Doesn't say what it is Celsius. Use your imagination. It's cold. 32 degrees Fahrenheit is freezing. So -2 degrees Fahrenheit is 34 degrees below that. Yeah, it's pretty wild. Today it seems to be kind of like a sunny, dry day. It's been snowing a lot here lately. The last few years in Minnesota, we just haven't been getting this much snow, especially not this early in the season. So to have it snow literally every other day or every couple of days, we just have a lot of snow, a lot of ice, a lot of really cold. And yeah, for people like myself who have a dog, and I have to take Heidi out 5 or 6 times a day, I'm in it all the time. So yeah, it's a lot. No one is here. Welcome, no one. Our newest mod. So happy to have no one. We love all the mods. Go Elmo, go Elmo, formerly Go Elmo Go, formerly Malik Robinson. Well, still Malik Robinson. Malik Robinson, Monique Robinson. Just a coincidence, they're not related. And Rahul says, pretty excited for deployment. This is a must skill to have on a developer's skill set. I absolutely agree. And I have run into a handful of front-end developers, one junior dev in particular, who just did not think it was important, just thought, there's people on the team that can deal with that. I don't need to worry about that. No intellectual curiosity at all about how to see their stuff in the browser, wasn't interested. So yeah, I think that, so let's be real. If you are on sort of a traditional, I guess, agile team, yeah, you probably do have people in your organization that are dedicated to like cloud infrastructure, right? They're like the people who understand AWS and how to do all those things. And that's in a big organization or a sizable organization, that's an important rule. However, imagine being a front-end developer, having a seat at the table, being able to talk about the deployment process and what that's like. So understanding deployment means that you can talk now with your team about what the deployment process is. When you understand Git and your branches and pull requests, you can talk about the best way to QA your work in a staging environment, what your process is going to be for moving to production, how you QA after it's in production, and then the actual process of deployment, getting it from that state. Well, first of all, getting it from your local environment to the staging environment, and then getting it from the staging environment over to a production environment. Deployment, understanding how deployment works, gives you, it isn't just about putting it on a server. It's about understanding, it's about closing the loop on front-end development and being part of those conversations with your team. I don't like being on a team where I have no say in what that process is. I don't like that, because oftentimes that process is being defined by the cloud infrastructure people or by the back end people. And their process is not the same as the process for a front end team. So I want front end developers to understand this, not just to get their stuff from point A to point B to point C, but to also be an active participant on their team talking about the deployment process, because you will spend as much time on QA and deployment, if not more, than you will spend doing the actual front end work. I'm just going to say it. I think it's 50-50. That was my experience, at least. So there's that. Go Elmo Go is in Florida, chilling at a cool 72, 73. Bless your heart. Bless your heart, Malik. You earned it. Listen, you deserved it, because I think you had a hot, steamy summer without air conditioning. Am I right? Do I remember you telling us that? So I'm glad you're enjoying some nice, mild weather. You earned it. And Rahul says 48.2 degrees Fahrenheit in Nepal right now. I think that is a glorious temperature. I can live very comfortably in the 40s and 50s. I think that's a great temperature, especially if it's cool and dry and sunny. If you have sunshine, that especially helps. So I don't know that much about Nepal. All I know about Nepal is Mount Everest, and I don't. Do you live near Mount Everest? I don't know. I don't know much about the geography, topography of Nepal, other than I think you sit at a much higher elevation. But I don't know if that's just the area around Mount Everest or if it's the whole country. I honestly don't know. Maybe I should look that up. So hopefully you're comfortable, because that sounds glorious to me. So, okay. So here's what we're doing today. Oh, and just one moment here. Hold please. Okay. So here's what we're doing today. So this is the project that we just finished. And I have this domain name that I bought a year ago called practicelayouts.com. And the reason I bought this is because I had an idea, and I'm still going to follow through on this. So basically, this is me sort of pulling, well, I don't want to, that's not the right terminology, sort of like implementing this idea that I've had, right? I want to make a website called Practice Layouts, where it's just sort of maybe a landing page explainer talking about why it's so important to practice building layouts in front-end development and doing obviously with a vanilla twist on everything, right? I don't actually have a landing page for this domain, but that's fine. You don't need one. So we're going to go through the entire setup. We're going to set up a droplet and a lamp stack for practicelayouts.com. And then we are going to do a second setup of virtual host with a subdomain. And for every project that we finish, we are going to deploy that landing page as a subdomain. So we might actually, I might spend an entire weekend just deploying all the things that we did this year. I might. Because repetition and practice is the best way to learn this, right? So I might do that. I mean, maybe that's a good idea for tomorrow. I was thinking about starting the new project tomorrow, but I'm not quite ready yet. So let's see how things go today. Maybe tomorrow we'll just spend our day getting all of our landing pages from this year, 2025, deployed as subdomains. So after we get practicelayouts.com deployed and set up on the Droplet, we're going to add something called a virtual host, because you don't need a new Droplet every time you add a new website to a Droplet. You can add something called a virtual host, and this will be italia.practicelayouts.com, so it'll be a subdomain. So we're really going to do 2 deployments today, and I'm also going to use FileZilla. Now I do have tutorials on my channel about how to do this. So let's go to videos, and I do have tutorials about how to do this. So I have how to deploy a website, and this is with FileZilla. So if you're a Windows user and you don't know, rsync excuse me, is not natively available on Windows. There is software that you can install to use rsync. I don't remember what it is. Malik, I know that you used it. If you don't mind reminding us in the chat what that is, we can let people know. But FileZilla and SFTP are perfectly valid, acceptable ways of deploying to a server, especially when you're deploying a static website and you don't need to run like a Node app. I also have how to deploy a website using rsync. And I have 2 GitHub repositories. Let me see here. Where is it? Oh, you know where it is? It's right here. So I have this GitHub repository called DevOps right here. And I haven't added the README yet for the virtual host. So after we walk through the steps today, I'm going to create the README for the virtual host. So I've got one for rsync, I've got one for SFTP, and then I'll put a virtual host in here. But we're going to follow these steps. We're going to follow these steps and do all the work to do a server setup, and then I'll show you how we do the virtual host. So we've got videos and we've got the written README instructions on how to do it. Yeah, so let's go ahead and get started. And then of course I have what's called so I use DigitalOcean. If you don't know what DigitalOcean is, I do have a link. Did I put a link? I do have a link in my bio right here. So I have a link to DigitalOcean I also have a link to Hover. These are affiliate links, which means I do get a small commission. However, if you use these links, so if you use a link at Hover, you'll get $2 off your first purchase if you decide to buy a domain name for yourself. If you use the link for DigitalOcean, you'll get a $200 credit for your first 60 days on DigitalOcean. So I would encourage you, if you are comfortable using affiliate links, use this link, sign up, get the 60 days, practice, see if it's something that you enjoy doing. But I really want you, this to me is just low risk. Yes, you do need a domain name to do these things. So you will have to purchase a domain name, but I think that these are low cost, low risk ways of learning how to do this. So these things are here. They're meant to help you. If you don't want to use them, you absolutely don't have to, but they're here if you would like to use them. Oh, and GoOmaGo says, I used Ubuntu to rsync, pretty much just a Linux terminal. So, but what was it called, Malik? Wasn't it like it started with the WMS or something like that? It had a name, but I don't remember what it was. But yeah, it sort of turned your terminal into a Linux terminal so you could rsync is what it did, from what I remember. So anyways, okay. Well, let's get started. So I have on this particular I have basically a team that I set up. You can create teams in DigitalOcean. So I created a team that is completely separate from my personal websites, my client websites. So I don't have to worry about accidentally revealing anything that I don't want to show to the world. So everything that you see here today, the IP addresses, the domain names, these are all things that I do specifically for my YouTube channels, projects specifically for the videos that I make or the streams that I do. So, so that's what we're seeing here. When you log into DigitalOcean, you are asked to set up a project, and I encourage you to set up individual projects for each landing page or project that you do. So let's just start from the beginning here. Okay, and we have links here for DigitalOcean and Hover. I also have a link here for the official DigitalOcean tutorial on how to do a LAMP one-click install. The first thing that we're going to do is, well, the first thing we're going to do is actually do the one-click install. So I'm going to create a new project, and I'm going to call it Practice Layouts, select the purpose, and I'm just gonna say, we'll say educational purposes. Here we go. Skip. Isn't this fun? We're gonna have so much fun today, you guys. We're just gonna have so much fun. I'm so excited. Okay, so here's our new project. And we're going to go to create, and we're going to do a droplet, create a cloud server. We need to choose a region. So where I'm located in the US, I live in Minnesota, which is like smack dab in the middle of the United States. So for me, New York, San Francisco, Atlanta, any of these would be fine. I tend to choose whatever data center DigitalOcean puts in here based basically on my IP address, right? So whatever they choose, I go with. Sometimes it's New York, sometimes it's San Francisco. So I'm just going to go with this. And then I'm going to go to Marketplace. And I want LAMP. Linux, Apache, MySQL, PHP on Ubuntu 24.02. So we're going to select this. Add a worry-free managed database. I don't need a database. This is a static website, so I'm not going to choose that. I am going to choose a shared CPU, a basic. You could choose dedicated. They're a little more expensive. I think shared is fine. I don't think that I need anything beyond that for just a little static website, right? CPU options. I'm going to go with regular, disk type SSD, and I generally choose the $6 a month. I am wondering if I should choose the $12 a month since I want to put all of my sites. Let me think about this a minute. And Malik says, I'm not sure what it was. What it said it was. I will look for my screenshot of it to remember the name. It just deploys as Ubuntu. Yeah, Malik did use the affiliate link, and you said you had no problems. Very useful. Did you also, Malik, I was just curious, did you also use Hover to buy pastry.com? I'm just curious if you also used Hover or if you used a different domain register, and what your experience was with that, if you are comfortable sharing. Let me see here. Windows use rsync. Windows Subsystem for Linux, WSL. This is what it is. To use rsync on Windows, the best methods are via Windows Subsystem for Linux for native Linux experience or by installing CW rsync. So there is a way to use rsync on Windows, but again, today, I'm just going to go ahead and show you how to use FileZilla. No. It's completely fine. I don't think that I didn't even realize I had an affiliate link for Hover until probably weeks after I made that video, so it's no problem. The only reason I tell people about it is because you can get a couple bucks off if you decide to use it. So, but Malik says he did use Hover to buy the domain name. So I think they're a great register. I really like them. Yeah, WSL. So, yeah. Yep. So, okay. So this is, maybe I don't have a Windows machine, so I can't walk you guys through how to use this. So maybe we can talk Malik into making a tutorial on how to do it. I'll have to have a little conversation with him offline about that. Maybe he can help us out with that. So, okay. I'm kind of thinking about choosing the $12 a month Droplet because I am planning to put several static websites on this Droplet. So I think I'm going to go with the $12 a month, but if you have one or two or just a couple handful of static websites, like the type of sites that we build on this channel, I think the $6 a month Droplet would be just fine. I'm going to go with the 12 because I know I'm going to put several static sites on here. Okay, and then this is add volume. Need more disk space, add volume with no manual setup. Block storage volumes, add extra disk space. We automatically format and mount your volume so it's available as soon as your Droplet is, and you can move volumes seamlessly between droplets at any time. Think of it like a flash drive for your virtual machine. I don't think I'm going to do this. Backups. Enable automated backup plan. So I'm also not going to do this because I consider my Git repository and my local environment my backup. I'm diligent about version control and deploying, pushing to my Git repository, so I am not going to enable automated backup plans. If this was a website or a landing page for a client, I would enable this. And I think it's like, yeah, it's like a couple bucks a month. So it's not expensive, but I don't need this for my personal projects. Okay, choose authentication method. So I already have an SSH key on my DigitalOcean account. It's called Lemon. That's what I named it when I was setting up my Lemon Stack project. So I'm just going to continue to use this SSH key. We are not going to use a password or root. I mean, we're going to sign in for the first time as root, but we are actually going to disable this. So, and I encourage you to not use the password and to use an SSH key as authentication. Add improved metrics, monitoring, and alerting for free. Yes. And then I'm going to rename the host name. So I'm going to call this, just going to call this practice layouts. Whoops. Practice layouts. And then this goes with the project called practice layouts. And now our cost is updated to $12 a month. So I'm going to go ahead and create the droplet. And this will take like a few seconds. It won't take that long. And Aaron Metlick says, rsync, does it use SSH? Yes. Yeah. So you would obviously, I mean, I honestly don't know how I would rsync without SSH. Maybe there's a way to do it with a password. But yeah, you would definitely, I would use SSH with rsync. Yes. Oh, and Monique says it's in the 20s on the East Coast. Do you have any snow? I would even take the 20s. If it's cool and dry and sunny, I think the 20s is even fine. That's, people think that that's like really, really cold. And I guess it's all relative. But in Minnesota, when we spend so much time at or below 0, 20s is a dream come true. If it was the 20s, right now in Minnesota, there would be people outside walking around without a coat and in shorts. Yes, in shorts. So, okay. So now we have our IP address. So we want to go ahead and point our domain. So I'm going to copy the IP address. And we're going to go to our DNS settings. Now, these are the default DNS settings that Hover gives every domain name, and I don't need any of them. If you are using MX, right, if you're using your domain name for email, or you have settings in here that you know you need, don't delete them. I don't have anything in here that I need. So I'm going to delete all of these. I don't use this for email. I don't have anything else going on here. So I'm just going to delete them all. So now we're going to do a new A record. The host name is @ and that's for the root. There's our IP address, the TTL, 15 minutes. We'll add the A record. And then I'm also going to add a CNAME record. The CNAME record, let's see, I have to remind myself. The CNAME is www with a valid value or target of, and for us it's practice layouts. www, hang on. It's practicelayouts.com. Did I spell it right? Yes. And here's why we do a www for every single root domain. It's because, let's go back, we can go here. How many websites still use www? Let's do a little experiment here. Oh, this is a good one actually. Walmart, www. Target.com, www. Facebook.com, www. What else? Instagram, www. How about Amazon? www. So many websites are still using www as the domain name that their sites resolve to. So what if we just did https amazon.com. So I'm not letting it autofill anything in here. I'm just putting in amazon.com. It redirects to www. So we need to do the same thing if we decide that our domain is going to be with www or not have www. So every domain name, every website has 4 domain names. Let's list them out here. Every website has 4 domain names. So for practice layouts, it's going to be http practicelayouts.com, and it's going to be http www.practicelayouts.com, and then it's going to be https practicelayouts.com, and then it's going to be https www.practicelayouts.com. So don't overlook the fact that people are going to come into the browser, and if you decide that you want your website to live under the root without www, and www is essentially a subdomain, that's really what it is. You don't overlook the fact that people are going to type in www, and if you don't account for that, and make sure that your Apache configuration file handles that redirect, people are going to get a page that says like this doesn't, you know what I'm talking about in the browser, when it's like this domain doesn't resolve, or basically your site's not going to load because the browser's not going to know what this is. So okay. If you are interested about remote server cheat method, you can practice a FRPC as fast reverse proxy instead of rsync, and maybe could run perfect. Okay, well, I will make a note of that. Thank you for the compliment. I appreciate that. Yeah, I mean, I'm open to all deployment methods. I can be honest with you and tell you that this is like an old school method of learning how to do deployment. I'm open to all methods. This is the way I learned how to do it. This is how I like to teach it. I think it's rock solid, and it teaches people how the internet works. Okay, we're also going to install an SSL certificate, but make no mistake that your website has 4 domain names, and you need to account for all of these domain names and decide, do you want www? Do you want the root? How are you going to handle these redirects? So we're going to account for all of these things. Let's go back here. So this is our starting point for this root domain. And I have made the decision that I want the root to be practice layouts, and I want www to redirect. So maybe we should do a deployment where we decide that www is the core and that the root redirects. Yes, I think that'll be our next deployment when we set up another droplet. That'll be our next deployment, because I haven't done that in a long time, and I actually can't remember how to do that. So we will absolutely cover that when we do our next deployment. So give me a few weeks and I'll make sure that we cover that, and we have written deployment instructions for that as well. So okay, so a couple notes about propagation. This, in my experience, is probably going to propagate within about 10 or 15 minutes. Technically, it can take 24 to 48 hours, especially if you live in a rural area where maybe the internet service provider doesn't flush their cache very often. I live in a busy, big metropolitan area, so IP addresses tend to get propagated and flushed out very quickly here. A good example of this is that I had a client where I was doing a server update for them a couple of years ago, and the company was owned by two people. One person lived in the Twin Cities and the domain propagated instantly for him. The other person who owned the company lived in rural northern Minnesota in a cabin and had a tiny little ISP service provider who didn't flush their DNS more than every 24 to 48 hours. So he couldn't see the site for like 2 days. So that's just an example of how location, population, and the area that you live in determines how quickly or not quickly domains IP addresses and new domain name settings can propagate. So that's just something to keep in mind. But I think we're going to see this propagate pretty quickly. So, okay, let's get back to it. So what's next on the list here? And then add the domain name to DigitalOcean. So now on DigitalOcean, we're going to go to Manage DNS on DigitalOcean. Let's see here. Okay. And you can see here that I already have a domain here. So we're going to add a new domain. And it's practicelayouts.com. And the project is Practice Layouts. We'll add domain. And this is what's next. You need to update your name servers with your domain registrar for the records below to take effect. And we are not going to do that. There is more than one way to do this. You can change your name servers, which is right here. So my big head is in the way. Hang on. So the name servers by default are hover name servers. And yes, you can change these name servers to use the DigitalOcean name servers. And then you don't need to do anything with your DNS settings. This is the way that I like to do it though. Because if you ever decide to add email or there's a whole host of reasons why you may need to edit your DNS settings, I just prefer to do all those things on Hover, not on DigitalOcean. So this is my preference. So I'm going to leave these here, and we are not going to change the name servers. So DigitalOcean is also adding some name servers here, and we're just going to leave these. We're not going to do anything with them. We're not going to edit them or delete them. So we're just going to create a new record. We need a new A record. So it's at, and then it gives us IPs to choose from, 3600, no problem. And then we're going to add another record, a CNAME, www, and you could see there that updates. And it's practicelayouts.com. Did I spell everything right? And I'm going to update this to 3600. Okay. So far, so good. Now, we're going to log into our server. And all of these instructions say the lemon stack, so we just have to substitute for practice layouts, which is totally fine. We can do that. Okay, so let's go back now. And I'm going to copy this IP address, and we're going to log in as root. So we're going to SSH root at the IP. The authenticity of this host can't be established, blah, blah, blah. Basically, this is asking to add this to a file called known hosts, and we're just going to say yes. Oh, permission denied, public key. Hang on here. Do I have, do I have the wrong key? I don't think so. Let me check. Hold, please. I think that I have. I thought I had the right key in here. You know, it wouldn't be a live stream if I didn't have a mistake to fix. Am I right? That's okay. I used to get really stressed out about mistakes and things like that. I don't anymore because honestly, the feedback that I get from you guys is that you like seeing how to troubleshoot things. Where's my settings? Yeah, that's right. Let's see here. Oh, it is different. Did I not update this? Okay. No problemo. Let me... Hang on, I have to think about this. Clearly, this is something I should have checked before I started today. I didn't even think of it. Okay. And what am I going to call this? We'll call this practice. Practice layouts. Add SSH key. Now, how do I get this onto the server? I don't know. We could destroy the droplet and start over again. Matt Have Codes is here. Hello. Into AI development and codes in Python. Can anyone tell me what is the error or issue? So I will tell you what the error or issue is. I forgot to set up the correct SSH key on my server before I started creating my droplet this morning. So that's what I'm doing. Let me think about this for a second. I need to get this onto the server. So you know what I think is the easiest thing to do? The easiest thing to do is to just start over, because that is incredibly simple. So I think what I'll do is just create a new droplet. Well, can I log in, access the console? I think I can access the console. I have to think about this. Yeah, let's just do it. We'll do it together. Okay. So here's what we need to do. We need to access the, we can't log in on the terminal, because we did not set up a password for the root user. We set up a SSH key, but I did not have the correct SSH key on my Droplet. So that's on me. But this is a common mistake. So we can actually log into the console and CD into that directory and add the SSH key manually. So we're going to do that. So will it let us launch the Droplet console? I think so. If it doesn't, there it is. It let us launch. Okay, so we need to SSH. So we're in root. So let's ls and see what's in here. SSH right here. So if we CD into SSH, and then we ls, and I'm sorry that it's so tiny, authorized keys right down here. Hang on, let me clear. ls. So there's authorized keys. I'm going to copy this. So we'll do nano authorized keys. So this is the public SSH key. We're going to add a new one. And this is the public. Nobody can see the private, so I'm not really worried. So there's the correct SSH key now. So I'm going to Control X, yes, enter, and now that's saved. So now we can log out, and that key has been added now to our Droplet. So now we can come back here and we can log in again. There, we're logged in. Woohoo! Yep, so we got it figured out. Mad have codes. You have been down this road before. You have been down this road before. We bail and try again. All good. Second time's the charm. Yeah. So here's the thing about servers and droplets. And I learned this when I was in school. I had a teacher who said, it's a little grim, so don't read too much into it. Just look at the bigger picture. Treat your servers like cattle, not like pets. And these are not things that you need to baby and nurse along. These are things where if they're not working or there's something wrong, you need to destroy it and start over. Because if you are following good best practices like version control, you have a local copy, you have a copy in your Git repository, perhaps you're pushing to like a GitHub pages, you should have redundant multiple copies of your files. So say something like this happened, we were tinkering around with our SSH keys, something happened, and suddenly you couldn't get logged into your server. Big deal. Destroy it. Start a new one. Get your ducks in a row. You should have all of your files, redundant copies of your files anyways, so don't worry about it. Same if your server is ever compromised or you get hacked or somebody gets access. Maybe you forgot to disable root and password and somebody guessed your password and got into your server and compromised your files or your site. Do not try to go into that site and clean it up. Don't do it. It won't work. You won't get everything. Destroy that droplet, create a new droplet, deploy a fresh copy from your Git repository or your local environment, disable the root login and authentication, and get a nice SSH key in there. That is, I can't tell you how important it is to have that type of attitude around your servers. Just make sure you have redundant copies. Don't be afraid to delete stuff. So, okay, moving on. So when you log into DigitalOcean for the first time, you're going to see this message of the day. You're going to get like a little dashboard here. The very first thing that we need to do is do an update and an upgrade. So we're going to do this first. We're just going to follow all of these instructions right here. And while this is working, we'll answer a couple of questions. What are you about to make? Is it a website or application, or is it a company project? So on this channel, we mostly build UIs and landing pages. So we are going to deploy a landing page that we just spent the last month or so building, and you will see it. So no, I do not do client work or company work on this channel. Those things are confidential. I don't talk about them. I don't show them. So I do freelance, yes, but I don't show my client work. Those things are confidential and proprietary, so I don't share that. We only talk about the things that I build live, the landing pages that I build live. So, and all of that is open source work. All of that is on my GitHub. My GitHub link is in the description, so I will let you check the description down below the video. My GitHub link for the repository and just for my profile is down below. So let's see here. Okay, so we are up to date now, and then I always do a reboot, and that closes the connection. So we'll give this a couple of minutes, and then we're going to reconnect as root. And just one moment, please. Okay, so I'm going to focus in and get through some of these steps. Do not be offended if I don't look at the chat for several minutes, because I want to get a little focused work in, but I will get to the chat and answer all questions when I take a break. All right. All right, so let's go ahead and SSH back in. And I'm also going to, we have this message of the day, and it says down here to delete this message of the day. Excuse me, I have like a little hair in front of me here. To delete this message of the day, you can run this little script. And I'm going to do that. And I put a note here. Hang on 1 second. I put a note here that part of this message of the day includes the path to where your DigitalOcean password, especially for MySQL, lives. So deleting the message of the day doesn't delete the password, and I put a little note here where you can find that. So let's go ahead and clear. And I just want to check and see what's installed here, just to make sure that everything got installed. So we'll check Apache first. Yep, we have Apache. We'll check MySQL. Let's check PHP. Oops. PHP is installed. And then we're just going to check the system status of Apache. And I'm just checking to make sure that everything is active and running. So there we go. And we can hit Q to quit. I put a note in here about the Nano text editor. So Nano comes pre-installed on the terminal. I have a link here to some Nano shortcuts, but basically this is when you enter the Nano text editor, the way that I save files and exit. I do Control X, I hit Y and enter, and then enter again to save your files. This is the note about where your MySQL root password lives. Next, I want to check the firewall. So we're going to check the UFW status. UFW stands for uncomplicated firewall, which comes pre-installed on the LAMP stack. And these are the things that I'm looking for right here. So everything looks good. If UFW is inactive, you can follow these steps to install it. Next, we want to create our non-root sudo user. And I have here that I'm going to create user Angela. I think actually I'm going to do a different name this time. We'll do Heidi, which if you don't know, Heidi is my little Sheltie. Yes, you're my little Sheltie, aren't you? Can you lay down? Yeah. Can you lay down? Okay. She's looking at me. She's like, what's going on? What are we doing? Okay, so I'm going to add user Heidi. And it does ask for a password. So this is the one thing that you do need to give a password for, because every time we're adding a sudo user, a non-root sudo user that has root level privileges. Each session that you use your sudo user, you will have to enter a password. That is not the same thing as a root user password. It's just the password for the sudo user. So make sure you put it in a safe space. Make sure that you remember it. So I'm going to go ahead and enter it. And it's going to ask me a series of questions. I'm going to enter past these questions. I'm not going to fill them out. And we'll say yes. Okay. Then I'm going to clear. Now we need to add, excuse me, we need to add the user Heidi to the sudo user group. So I'm going to say, user mod ag sudo Heidi. Now we need to copy root's authorized key to the new user so you can SSH without passwords. So that SSH file that we modified and added the public key to, we need to make a copy of that for the user Heidi. So I'm going to copy this, but I obviously have to replace the name. Whoops. Well, I made the directory. Now I'm going to copy it. Now we need to change the ownership and the read, write, execute permissions for that SSH directory. So the owner and the group are now Heidi. Oh, and I have to change it here too. In hindsight, maybe I should have just used Angela, but we're already in it. We're already in it. Now we're going to modify the read, write, execute permissions. And honestly, this is a good way for you to get comfortable with the terminal to do these things. Edit in real time. Practice, 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 practice. You're going to be a pro in no time. So we copied the root's authorized key to the new user so you can SSH without passwords. So now we need to disable the root login with SSH, and we're going to edit this SSHD config file. And what we're looking for is I can make this a little bigger. We're looking for permit root login. We're going to change it to no. And password authentication, we're going to change it to no. I'm just going to scroll down here. Permit root login right here. No. And now we're going to look for password authentication. Right here. And this is commented out. So we'll undo that. And we're going to say no. And Control X, yes, enter to exit and save. So now we're going to log out and then log back in as the sudo user. So I'm going to exit. And I'll just go ahead and clear. So now we're going to SSH Heidi at, and this is where we're going to find out if our DNS settings have propagated. I'm going to use the domain name. So practicelayouts.com. Did I spell it right? And again, it's asking to add this identity to the known hosts. Go ahead and say yes. And here we are, we're logged back in. So we have all of our updates applied. We have a little dashboard here of the status of the server. We are logged in as our sudo user. This is Practice Layouts is the host name that we added when we created the droplet. Our DNS settings have propagated because we didn't need the IP address to log in. We just used the domain name. So we are well on our way here. Now, we ran into this last time. If you are setting up your domain name more than once, because I just gave you this lecture about destroying droplets and starting over again, if you run into trouble, you may run into a situation where if that known hosts file has a different IP address set up, it's going to say, hey, warning, remote host identification. You're going to get this message right here. All this is you needing to delete the previous entry from your known hosts file. And I have here this SSH keygen in order to do that. So if you run into this, it looks scary, don't panic. Just remove the domain from your local known host file and then log in again. So just a note about that. Now, we want to add the sudo user to the www-data group. www-data is the default Apache owner and group. And for many websites, like WordPress is a great example. Like your plugins can't update naturally or normally if the owner in the group isn't www-data. This isn't a WordPress website, but that's a great example of where you would need to keep it as www-data. Basically the default Apache owner and group. We're going to add Heidi, not Angela, to the www-data group. And you're going to get a better idea of what that actually looks like once we get to the FileZilla part of this. But let's go ahead and do this. Now we're doing sudo for the first time, so it's going to ask us for our password. I'm just going to copy this part right here. And then I'm going to do Heidi. Now we need to log out and log back in for the group change to take effect. So I'm going to exit. And then we'll log back in. Here's our dashboard, confirm it worked. Groups, and you can see down here, I'll clear this and move it up. Oops. Heidi, sudo, www-data users. So, and this is what we see here. Good. Okay, fix the permissions. So, 775 gives the group write access. So Angela or Heidi, as part of the www-data group, can update files without breaking Apache ownership. move this a little bit here. So we're going to update the directory to have the correct owner and group, and to have the correct read, write, execute access. And then we're also going to set it so it says, if you want to make sure all future files keep that group, we can run this, and we will do this. But I tend to be kind of redundant in how I reset things after I deploy. So you're going to see me do that, but I don't want to get ahead of myself. So following the instructions, we're going to start with this, which is just making sure that that HTML directory has that. And I think also I should tell you what we're even changing. So where is your website even going to live? So we're going to see, where are we right now? Path working directory. We're in our home directory for our user. Where does your website even live? So we're going to cd var www, and we'll list our files, HTML. So let's cd into HTML. We'll list our files again. And you can see here there's an index.html. So we know that our domain has propagated. So let's go look at it. What does it look like? So it's practicelayouts.com. This is it. This is the default HTML file that DigitalOcean, you can see up here, puts in every new droplet. This is it. So this is how we know that our domain has propagated and we can use this domain now. But also make a note of what we have up here. We have HTTP, no S, no encryption. And we can also www.practicelayouts. This also resolves to the exact same thing. So technically we have two domains for the same web page. And we're going to handle that with Apache. We're going to make sure that there's a redirect in the Apache configuration file to handle that. I don't want www. I want www to redirect to just the root. And then, of course, this is only HTTP. We have to make sure that we have HTTPS. And we have to make sure that if anybody comes up here and types in HTTP, that automatically gets redirected to HTTPS. So I hope you can see why once we install the SSL certificate, we have to handle those redirects, because you now have 4 domain names for one web page. So there's a lot to account for here. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do, because I don't have a web page. I don't have a web page for this domain, and that's fine. You don't have to have a web page for this domain, but I have to have something, and I don't want it to be the DigitalOcean version. So here's just an HTML page with some CSS. That's all this is. I'm actually going to exit out of this, and I'm just going to make my own. Where is, right here. Oops. Hang on. Here we go. HTML. So I'm just going to say practice layouts, and I'm literally just going to put an H1 in here that says practice layouts. I'm also going to add a meta name. Isn't it robots content no index? Oh, I guess I have one. Name robots content no index no follow no index. Meaning I don't want this root domain to get indexed by Google because there's nothing here. So if Google comes along and hits this practicelayouts.com, I don't want it to get indexed, but I do want something to be here. So I'm going to copy this, and then let's go back into this file. And then I'm going to control, isn't it? I think it's control K. And I'm just going to delete everything that's in here. There's probably an easier way to do this. I can't be bothered to look it up. And now I'm going to copy in mine. Control X, yes, enter. Oh, because I didn't sudo. That's why. Okay, control X. Hang on. Control X. So we have to sudo nano. Okay. Now I'm going to delete. We're having so much fun. You guys, isn't this fun? I think it's really fun. I get to share this experience with you. I have spent hours of my life learning how to do this, and I always thought it was just so much fun. I enjoyed it. Okay, control X, yes, enter. Now, that's it. This is all we need. That's all we need. And it's no index, no follow. That's it. You don't need anything else. It's completely fine. So this is, yeah, I mean, I guess this is the other thing that I think is worth pointing out, which is that even if you just want to practice setting up a server, just make yourself like a basic HTML page, get your H1 in here. You don't even need FileZilla or rsync to do that. You can do that literally in the terminal using Nano. So it's just such low risk is my point to learn how to do this. So now let's make sure, so let's take a look at some of these permissions in these files now. So ls alt, so you can see here now that we've got www data as the owner and the group. And we're going to see the owner change when we deploy with FileZilla, because I'm going to log in via SSH and use SFTP to deploy as the owner, Heidi. So we're going to see this change. And let's see here. So let's also make sure that we have 775 for HTML. We're going to reset some of these permissions when we're done. And you can see here now with 775, this has changed a little bit. So, and if you want to make sure all future files keep that group, we can do this. Okay, so now we're going to get to the FileZilla part of things. Let me open FileZilla and we will review. And I apologize in advance because this is tiny and I can't make it bigger. I tried to zoom in and I don't know how to make this bigger. So I apologize for that. But let's go back and look at some of what this says. So download the FileZilla client. There's FileZilla server and FileZilla client. You only need the free version. The client right here. There is a paid version, but the free version works very well. Yeah, right here, FileZilla old but gold. I love that. I hadn't used FileZilla in years. I've been rsyncing for a really long time because I'm on a Mac, but I dusted off FileZilla and I was like, God dang it, this is so easy. This is so easy, but it does come with some risk. But if you're really good about making sure that you have redundant backups and you are diligent with Git and version control, you will be just fine. You will be absolutely fine. Oh, let's get back to this. Okay, so we want to go to File Site Manager and then click on New Site and type in a name. So I'm going to go to File Site Manager, New Site, and we're going to call this Practice Layouts, just giving it a name. And we're going to change the protocol from FTP to SFTP. The host is practicelayouts.com. It can also be the IP address. It's port 22, but you can actually leave that blank. You don't have to fill that in. So we'll say practicelayouts.com. I'm going to leave port blank, but you could type in 22. The logon type is key file. The user is our pseudo user Heidi. And then give me a second here. I'm going to just browse. The key file is just the path to the SSH key to match up with the server. That's all this is. So now we can say connect, and in theory, we're going to be able to connect to the server. And again, we're getting this message about the known hosts file. So yes, we're going to say yes and okay. And boom, we're connected to our Droplet as our pseudo user using SSH. This is as secure as logging into the terminal. It really is. And you can see here that we are in, just like when we checked our path logged in on the terminal, we're in the home Heidi directory. So how do we get back over to our website? So I'm going to double click these dots twice. I'm going to go to var, and I'm going to go to www, and then HTML. And this is the file that we just modified right here. And of course, I could have deployed this from my local environment just by dragging over and dropping, but I didn't. So we are logged in now to our server. Okay, so we have a few more steps to go here. We kind of skipped the SSH or the FileZilla step because I did it in Nano, but we're at least logged in now with FileZilla. So, and here's a note about the things that you don't want to deploy to a server. You don't want to deploy anything with .git or .gitignore. I recommend that you don't deploy anything with a .md. MD files are usually README files. There's no reason for those to be on a production server. I'm on a Mac, so Mac is always creating these DS store files. And even though all of these things might be gitignore, these are all still files that are sitting here that you may or may not be deploying. So this is my last, let me see here. This is my last project. Let me find, here's what we're gonna be deploying today. This is the ink grid layout, right? So I've got a Photoshop file. I think this is an affinity photo file. I've got this QA file, a gitignore, dsstore.git. You don't want to deploy any of those things to a production site. Generally, it's fine if that stuff's sitting on a staging server, but not a production site. So we're going to be very selective about what we deploy here. So, and then just in case you need to reset ownership and permissions after rsync, I actually do this after every time that I rsync. So let's go ahead and do it now. I'm just going to do it now. Well, I think this is already set because I didn't use FileZilla. So I want the files to be 755, or excuse me, the directories to be 755. And I want the files to be 644. So now if we cd out and look at our files, these read, write, execute permissions equal 755 for HTML. And then if we cd into HTML and we look at that index.html, it's a little So the index HTML, we've got read write, read read equals 644. So that's great. That's what we want. And I don't know, I'm just in the habit of resetting my file permissions before and after a deployment. That's just me. So I encourage you to learn a little bit more about what these things mean, what this kind of process is. Find a workflow that works for you. So, okay, so let's install our SSL certificate now and get our hands dirty with a little bit of an Apache config. So make sure DNS is ready. Well, we know DNS is ready because we were able to use it, but let's just, for the sake of example, do this. Practicelayouts.com. We'll ping the domain. Beautiful. So I'm going to Control C to quit. We need certbot to install our SSL certificate. Let's make sure that's installed. It should be with the LAMP one-click install. So certbot version. Beautiful. If it's not installed and you need to install it, I have here a script that you can run. So now we want to request and install a certificate. We have to install the SSL certificate on both the root domain and www, even if we're just doing a redirect to the root. Browsers are checking the domain name on port 443 first. That's the HTTPS. And if the SSL TLS handshake fails, there's no certificate, then it can't complete the redirect. So you have to have it installed on both versions of the domain. Make sure you install the SSL certificate on both versions of the domain. Certbot is open source. It's completely free. So we're going to do, and I'm going to have to change these, which is fine. So actually, let's just make this easy. Oops, I spelled it wrong. Practicelayouts.com and www.practicelayouts.com. Okay, so enter email address used for urgent renewal and security notices. So your certificates are going to auto update every 90 days, but if there's ever a problem, you definitely want to get the email address or the email from Let's Encrypt letting you know there's a problem. So definitely put in an email. So I'm going to do info@angelajholden.com. Yes to the terms of service. Would you be willing? Yes, always yes. It's open source, so I'm happy to share data for whatever they need. So now it says requesting a certificate for practice layouts and what does it say here? Requesting a certificate for practicelayouts.com and www.practicelayouts successfully received a certificate. It's letting us know where the keychain is saved. It expires on March 13th, 2026. But we are going to check to make sure the auto renewal timer is working. We were unable to find a virtual host with a server name or address of practice layout, www.practicelayouts.com. Which virtual host would you like to choose? I'm going to choose number 2 for now. So this is 000 default LE, which stands for Let's Encrypt SSL conf. This is the file, the Apache configuration file that Let's Encrypt created, but we are going to be modifying both of these files anyways, but for now I'm just going to choose number 2. Successfully deployed certificate for www.practicelayouts.com. Congratulations, you have successfully enabled HTTPS on practicelayouts.com and www.practicelayouts.com. Okay, so let's go check. And then this is just what we walked through. When it's done, you'll see something like this. Enable SSL site if needed. I think these are already enabled, but we can go ahead. It doesn't hurt to do this step. So we'll do, so we are enabling this Apache configuration file, which I think is already enabled. Yeah, it's already enabled. And then we'll just do a system reload of Apache. Beautiful. I put this note in here, run this if you're in a redirect loop. So that hasn't happened to us. We're not in a redirect loop, although let's test and actually make sure it's working. But if you find yourself in some sort of a redirect loop, you can try this. So now let's go to, so here's practice layouts. If I refresh, it's automatically redirecting to HTTPS. And that's because the browser is always looking for HTTPS. Let's see if we can force it. Practice layouts.com. So I'm trying to force HTTP. And the browser is automatically looking for HTTPS. So that redirect is, and I think there is a redirect in the Apache file, but we're going to go ahead and look at that anyways, because we still have www. We still have both. So even though I think Apache added a redirect for us from HTTP to HTTPS, we're still going to modify those files ourselves because I have a way that I like to do it. But you can see here that now we have 4 domain names, right? And we're just making sure that we account for all of them. Okay, so let's do the auto renewal check. We're going to verify that the certbot timers are working. Oops. And you can see here that the timer is set up. So certbot installs a renewal timer automatically. It checks twice per day, approximately every 12 hours. If it's within 30 days of renewal, it renews automatically. You could do a dry run, a manual dry run if you want to. We're not going to do it. We verified that the timer is set up and running. I'm good with that. Now we can also verify which domains are active. And it says here, certificate name is practicelayouts.com. The domains are practicelayouts.com and www.practicelayouts.com. Perfect. Okay, so now we are going to edit the Apache virtual host files. And I think admittedly, this could be the most nerve-wracking part of this. But again, if you're working on a personal project and you're just here messing around learning, it's very low risk. Just go for it. Don't worry about it. Just go for it. So let's go ahead and clear. So now we need to go to a new part of the server. So we're going to go to cd etc Apache 2. And we are going to, well, if we list the files, I think there's a lot in here. Kind of a lot in here. Not too much in here. So we're going to go into the sites available directory. So let's cd into this directory. And then we want to sudo nano edit this 000 default.conf file. I'm just going to copy this. And inside, this is the HTTP port 80 Apache file. We want to make sure that we have a server name, server alias, and a 301 redirect. Let's see here. So we've got a server name, which is practicelayouts.com, a server alias, which is www.practicelayouts.com. I'm going to do this right here. And then we're going to do a redirect, a 301 redirect. Redirect 301. And we're going to redirect from the root to the HTTPS version. So we're redirecting HTTP to HTTPS. And it's practicelayouts.com. And make sure there's a slash afterwards. And then I generally comment out the rewrite engine, except if you what is it, enable the file, I think it recreates them. I'm going to do it anyways because I think it's redundant and you don't need them. But Apache did add rewrite rules for HTTPS, which is why when I tried to force HTTP in the browser, even incognito, it automatically redirected. But this is just the method that I learned when I first started learning how to do this. So this is how I do it. So, and then I don't change anything else here. So I think this is all right. Did I spell everything right? Practicelayouts.com. Practice layouts. Yes. Okay. So I'm going to Control X. Yes. Save. So there's our port 80 Apache file. Now we need the port 443 virtual host. And if we ls, you can see here, I'll zoom out a little bit, that there's this 000 default LESSL. Let's Encrypt created this configuration file. It basically made a copy of this file when it was setting up Let's Encrypt. That's what that is. Oh, this is the wrong one. Hang on. There we go. And let's just clear the terminal. Okay, so now we're in our 443 Apache file. So for this, we can copy and paste this whole thing in, but let's just edit. Practice layouts. And we can just do plain text. So this is what I want the whole file to look like. So we've got a server name, a server alias. We have a rewrite engine. We have our path. This should be the same, just updated for the new name. So I'm going to copy this. And I'm going to delete this. And yeah, we'll go ahead and save. And if it doesn't work, we'll figure it out, right? No big whoop. Okay, make sure the rewrite module is enabled and reload Apache. Module rewrite already enabled, and then we'll reload Apache, and then we'll test our redirects. Okay, if you want to be extra sure the SSL virtual host is active, you can enable individual Apache files. I'm not going to do that. I'm not worried about that. So now we're going to confirm that the redirect behavior works, and I'm going to do this in the terminal first. So what do we expect to see for HTTP practice layouts? And actually, let's update these also. So we'll start with this one. So what's the behavior that we expect to see? I expect to see that this is going to say it's redirecting. It's a 301 redirect from HTTP to HTTPS. Yes, 301. The location is HTTPS. Okay, so next, this is HTTP www. Again, I expect to see a 301 redirect to the root. Yes. So 301 moved permanently to HTTPS. Beautiful. Okay, so what do we expect to see here? This is the domain name that I actually want to resolve in the browser. I expect this to be a status 200. Yes, HTTP 200 OK. Excellent. So now here's the last one. This is HTTPS with the www. I also expect this to be a 301 redirect. Oops. Beautiful. So now let's actually go look in the browser and see what's happening. Well, this is incognito. We might want to use incognito actually. So if we do HTTP www.practicelayouts.com. Beautiful. We resolved to HTTPS practice layouts. www. We are resolving to the root domain. That's exactly what we want. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer for how you're formatting your domain, whether you use www or you're using the root. I tend to use the root. If you're doing client work or if you're just at an organization or working on a site that's established, I'm going to tell you that probably more often than not, you are going to see those domains set up on www. And if you're rebuilding that site, or even if you're just updating a server or moving to a new server, maybe you have a client who's on shared hosting and you're moving them to the cloud. I don't think that you should automatically switch them from www to a root domain. You want to preserve, what do we call it? What's the word I'm looking for? Well, they're already established in Google and in search engines as www. You don't want to lose that SEO juice, right? So just make sure that if you're moving to a new server, you're doing a setup, you are maintaining what currently exists. That's really, really important. And make sure that regardless of what people are typing into the browser, you're always resolving to the correct domain. So those two things are really, really important. One moment, please. One moment. Okay, so I want to answer some questions in the chat, but I'm also looking at the time. I'm kind of thinking that we should do the virtual host tomorrow because I try to keep the streams to about 2 hours or so, and we're at 1 hour and 42 minutes. I kind of think that we should do the virtual host and the subdomain tomorrow. Tell me what you think. I think this is, going through all these steps, it's a lot for one day, and I don't think the virtual host is going to take that much longer, but let's give it its own day. What do you think? That's what I'm thinking. Mad Have Codes asks, do you code every day? Do you go live every day? No, I code most days. Honestly, I'm taking a little bit of a break in December. I kind of stepped a little bit away from YouTube in December because I needed a break and I needed to like think. I needed some thinking time. And I also had some personal business that I wanted to take care of before the end of the year. But for the most part, I would say that I am coding most days. I go live every Saturday and Sunday at 10:30 a.m. Central Standard Time, pretty regularly. And Mad Have Code says, even I was also creating a daily machine learning teach video series. That's great. I think YouTube is such a great place to do this type of content. And we see a lot of people doing it. Christian Codes has a channel that is growing very quickly where he doesn't go live every day. He posts every day though, just talking about what he's learning and what his progress is. And clearly you're into machine learning and you want to teach that. This is a great platform to do it. So, and I think that Go Elmo Go is responding to one of our many successful points so far. Same with Monique. Oh, and Aaron is making the point about setting a canonical URL. Yeah, you definitely could. You could put a meta tag in the head stating what the canonical URL is. But you're also asking about SEO. What is best for searching? I just asked to know how coding on meta tags HTML. As well, SEO, referral URL for best searching. So are you asking what is better? Like a root versus www? Is that what you're asking? I don't think that there's a right answer to that. I think it just matters how established the current site that you're working on is, especially if you're doing client work or you're doing a redesign for somebody. If you're doing a redesign for somebody who is well established in search engines as one or the other, you absolutely have to maintain that SEO integrity, juice, whatever you want to call it. I don't think there's a right or wrong answer to what you choose if you have www or you don't. My greater point is that if you're moving an established site, don't change what they currently have in place in order to maintain the SEO integrity. But also, I mean, I think you could do canonical URLs, but I don't think that so a canonical meta tag would tell the browser which is the correct URL, but I don't think that you should have users resolving to different places. I don't think user A should resolve to www and user B should resolve to the root domain just based on the behavior of the user and how they type a domain in. I do think that you need to have redirects in place, and then you don't need a canonical meta tag. So it's moot. You don't need it. So I hope that answers your question. So I think Rahul is saying, yes, it would be okay to do the virtual host tomorrow. Good, because I've pretty much decided I'm going to do the virtual host tomorrow. That'll give it its own day, right? And that gives us lots of time to make mistakes because let's face it, I make tons of mistakes. I would like to know if there are people in the chat, and I'm kind of thinking, Rahul, of you specifically, I would like to know if my process and what I've shown or the way I've written this out is similar to how you learned it or how you do it. I'm just curious to know. I know that Malik, Go Elmo Go, is learning this all for the first time, and I'm so touched. I know I've already brought this up once, but when Malik was showing me Pastry, I asked him, oh, did you buy a domain? Are you going to deploy it? And he was like, no, why would I even do that? Which was such an adorable answer. And now he's learning a whole new, he's basically, when you learn deployment, you are closing the loop on this part of front-end development, right? All the work that we do is for the browser. And if you can't get it into in a production server, how are you closing the loop on the process of front-end development? So yeah, mistakes are how we learn. And thank goodness 16 months of live streaming has taught me 16 months of live streaming has taught me that it is a-okay to go live and make mistakes. In fact, the feedback that I get is that people appreciate seeing me make mistakes. And that's great because I don't have time to be slick or prepared. I don't have time for either of those things. I am very much at a place in my comfort level with live streaming where I just want to go live and let us all figure it out together. What's the point otherwise? It's all about practicing and learning and problem solving. So, and Rahul says, you're way ahead of me in terms of deployment. Oh, that's interesting. That's interesting. Well, I hope that what I've done is helpful. In fact, let me make sure. And then we're done here. Look at, we're done. We completed the entire thing. Let me make sure that I can share this. I think I need to put this in the description. I'll make sure the description gets updated. But this is the GitHub repository for these steps. And I've got two sets of instructions. I've got one for rsync and one for FileZilla and SFTP. And we'll get back to FileZilla tomorrow when we actually get the virtual host set up. So let's look at this here for a second. Let's go back to cd var www. I'm going to clear this. And if we list our files, we've got HTML. We're actually going to create a new directory. In fact, can we just do it now? What's the best way to do this? Let me look. I'll show you. We'll get a tiny little jump start here on tomorrow. We want to make directory, and we're just going to do Italia dot practice layouts.com, just like that. Oh, sudo. We have to sudo. Hang on. Permission is denied. Hang on. So we're going to sudo. There we go. Now when we list our files, we're literally creating another directory. So let's cd into this, because this is going to be a little different. So now we'll cd into this, and of course it's empty. There's nothing in here, right? So now we're going to sudo make directory public underscore HTML. Now we can cd into this public underscore HTML. And this is the directory where we're going to deploy our Italia website. But before we can do that, we have to create a virtual host, and we have to update our DNS settings to support a subdomain, and we have to install an SSL certificate that will include this subdomain. But we can do it all in the same droplet. Oh, this is really tiny. Sorry about that. Hang on. There we go. Here you can see the whole thing that I just did there. So we'll be able now to treat this as a completely independent website. It's a completely independent website. This is an excellent way to buy one domain name, one droplet, create virtual hosts, and you could use this one domain name in an infinite number of ways. And I think we all see organizations who do that. They use subdomains for their different, programs or parts of the organization, right? This is an excellent way to use a domain name. So you don't need multiple droplets. You don't need multiple domain names. So we're going to finish this tomorrow by creating the virtual hosts. Spooky stuff. But so tell me, does it still feel scary? Does it still feel scary, or are you starting to feel more comfortable? Oh, yeah. Experts are those that have made the mistakes. It's all good. The only difference between me and you is that I've done it more than you have. I just have more experience. That's it. I wouldn't even say I'm an expert. I would just say that I'm somebody who's just done it, right? And Rahul says, I used FileZilla to only put static files, never got time to learn deployment. Oh, so probably you don't have the same experience setting up a server. I would, one of the reasons I really push DigitalOcean is because of their documentation. DigitalOcean was not the first place that I tried to run a managed server. DigitalOcean was the first place that I found that had really well-written, comprehensive tutorials on how to do the setup. And just because I learned how to do all this I started in 2014, 2015. There was no AI, there was no ChatGPT, there wasn't really that many people blogging about this or creating videos about it. But DigitalOcean had such they had good forums, but they just had really, really well-written tutorials, really comprehensive. And that was how I learned to do it. I also had a client, one of my first big freelancing clients, that I did a redesign on. He said, hey, will you please deploy the site to DigitalOcean? And I had never even heard of them before. I was on another hosting provider, which I can't remember the name of it. I can picture the user interface, but I had signed up for basically what we call now a cloud server. At the time we called it VPS, a virtual private server. They had no documentation and I didn't know how to use it or where to find information to use it. So when I discovered DigitalOcean through my client and I saw that they had such amazing documentation, I was absolutely sold. I think they're a great company. I really love them. So, oh, good. I'm so glad. You guys make me feel so good about myself. Fantastic stream today. I learned a ton. Do me a favor also, if you're new here, first of all, welcome. If you haven't liked the video yet, would you be so kind as to do so? If you're not subscribed yet, would you also be so kind as to subscribe? It feels like the polite thing to do, right? Our little channel is growing at a steady pace. I have big dreams for 2026. I'm super excited about some of the ideas that I have. Yeah, I would appreciate it so much. Oh, good. And Malik is saying he's pretty comfortable with it now. That makes me so happy. Malik, you have no idea how happy that makes me to see new front-end developers getting comfortable with deployment. I'm telling you, you guys, I know it's rough out there right now, job search wise, but as junior devs or even mid-level devs, going into a team, being able to talk about deployment and understanding this process, it will make you so much more prepared to talk about what your deployment processes are going to be. Don't let the back end people decide what the front end process should be. I want front end developers to have that voice and to have that say at their companies and their organizations, but it's going to be very, very difficult for you if you really don't understand deployment to begin with. Yeah, so there's that. I had some other thoughts. So we'll do our virtual host tomorrow. I think that's a good plan. Oh, I think my final thought for today is this. I was thinking about what else I want to include on this channel in 2026. And I really want to start digging in more to Express. I don't see Express as a framework like React or Angular or Vue as a framework. I see, well, first of all, Express is not front end. It is very much back end. But I think Express.js totally aligns with my kind of vanilla workflow. But where DevOps and deployment closes the loop on one end of front-end development, I think that Express closes the loop on another end of front-end development, which is working with APIs, building custom endpoints, learning to massage your data, which, let's face it, and Rahul, tell me if I'm wrong, but if you work someplace where you have backend devs building custom APIs, they're not always going to build an endpoint that you want. You are going to need to know how to massage that data yourself, write methods yourself, and write custom endpoints for the work that you need to get done. And you don't always want to do all that stuff in your framework. You don't always want to massage all of that data in Vue, in React, in Angular. If you could build your own Express apps, massage that data yourself, make your own custom endpoints, I think that that's a bonus. Not always, but sometimes. So I want to start working more with authentication and endpoints and learning how to massage data. And I really, really enjoy doing that in Express. I also, let's face it, I just need to work on my JavaScript skills, and Express is a great place to do that. I think it ties in beautifully with my vanilla philosophy, and I need more practice. So I just want to start going live and working on some Express stuff. So that does mean that we're going to be using more Node. And I think that that's totally fine because it perfectly complements what we're already trying to do here. So there's that. And Rahul says, layoffs have affected junior and mid developers getting their foot in the door. They are competing with laid off senior devs. Yeah, this is what Malik and I talk about quite frequently, because I think Malik, and I don't think that I'm revealing a confidence. I hope not, when I say that it's been very frustrating for you to look for a job. And I think I get the impression sometimes that you feel like you're doing something wrong. And I don't think you're doing anything wrong. I think that you are competing with a saturated market. You're competing in a market with a lot of really experienced developers because there have been so many mass layoffs. Because let me tell you, if I had someone like Malik as a junior developer, I think I would have been in heaven compared to some of the junior developers that I worked with. So if you're a mid-level or a junior developer and you're having a tough time looking for a job, hang in there. But I absolutely think that if you go into a job with these types of skills in your portfolio, or being able to have these types of conversations in a technical interview, I think you're going to stand out as a junior developer. Because let's face it, this is not being taught to new junior developers. New junior developers are being taught one-click installs, GitHub Pages, Netlify, Vercel, things like that. And those are not bad things. But when you can demonstrate that you have this type of experience, I think this is a net positive. So yeah, we need to up our JS skills. Well, my JS skills. Rahul, it sounds like your JS skills are just fine. My JS skills for sure. So nope, no confidence at all. I'm an open book. He says, revealing a confidence. Seeing so many rejection emails, I do feel I am fighting a losing battle sometimes. Well, I hope that I don't want you to feel like I'm just blowing smoke up your ass, okay? I don't say things that I don't mean. I hope you guys know that. I only say things that I mean. And when I say that I think that Malik has a bright future, I mean that. So there's that. Okay. This was such a fun day. I really enjoyed this, especially after last weekend where I was really, really cranky and sort of pissing and moaning about my frustrations with YouTube. This was a nice change of pace. Although I will say I did wake up this morning feeling like refreshed and excited. So there's that. Okay. Yeah, exactly. Rahul is saying hang in there. thank you to everybody who hung out with us in the chat. We had Mad Hav's Code. We had Aaron Motlick. I hope I'm saying these names correctly. And of course, we had the amazing mods. They keep everything fast, fun, and friendly. Monique was here. Rahul was here. Malik was here. I love you guys. I just think you guys are the best. I appreciate everybody so much. Do me a favor, if you haven't yet, please like the video, subscribe if you haven't yet. We're so nice. We're nice here. We just like to nerd out with front-end development and have a good time. So, all right, everybody, have a great rest of your day wherever you are. I'll be back tomorrow. We're going to close the loop on these virtual hosts. We're going to get this subdomain deployed. If we have time, if things go smoothly, maybe we'll deploy a couple more. So I'm totally down with that. Yes, have a great rest of the day and weekend, and I will see you all tomorrow. Bye-bye.